Hello and welcome to the first video on this channel and the first episode in a series I'm going to be doing, which is called the Marvel Marathon, where I'm going to be watching, rating and ranking every single Marvel TV show and film in chronological order. So how this is going to work is every TV show and film is going to be ranked on three things. One, you have the soundtrack, so obviously the music. Two, you have the storyline, so if the storyline makes sense, if it links to what the film was originally trying to get at. And the third one is just how I enjoyed the film or TV show. If I didn't, if I liked it, what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, then yeah. So if you want me to change any of that, if you have any questions, let me know down below. So, the first thing is Eyes of Wakanda, which is an animated TV show that came out in 2025 and kind of built on the early story of Wakanda. So the first episode was pretty good. I didn't hate it, I didn't love it. There were a few bugs that I had in it, which is kind of obvious throughout the whole series, because the main problem I had with it was kind of a big problem that is prevalent throughout the whole series. So we'll get back to that in a sec. First thing, the soundtrack. Now, the intro music, so good. It links like the automatic style of Marvel building music that you expect, and it links like classical African kind of music, and it's really good. See, if we were just doing the intro, it's like an 8 or 9 out of 10. Whereas I feel like the rest of the episodes, songs and stuff like that, the music, let it down. So that's why I rated it a 7 out of 10. Second, obviously has a storyline. Now, I get it's the opening episode, but I feel like the storyline was kind of basic. For instance, like the storyline was kind of a Wakandan spy infiltrates like this cult-like thing, where there's like this one leader who originally registered for Wakanda. Now that seems like a very basic storyline, but there were parts of it I liked about it. For instance, you had the fight scenes. Fight scenes were animated really well, and the music for that was really good. But the problem is with the animation. This is what I was talking about earlier. Is the fact that I don't like the kind of animation that was put across. It's kind of like a 3D, kind of like early 2000s, 2010s kind of animation, which some people like, but I personally don't. Which is why that also impacted my enjoyment score. So the storyline rated a 6 out of 10, as you know. The enjoyment for me was also a 6 out of 10, because I feel like there were bits missing from it for me, which obviously I understand that they're not building off the film Black Panther, and they want to do beforehand. But the thing is, as you'll see, in later episodes they link to Wakanda. So overall, didn't hate the episode. Second episode, however, I love the second episode. So the second episode, soundtrack, 7.5. Because I feel like it kind of drew from the era it was in. Because the story focused on like the Trojan War, Achilles, that kind of thing. I feel like that music and that style of music was very prevalent in the episode. Now, my storyline, 8 out of 10. Because the story of having Troy and the Trojan Horse and Odysseus and stuff like that is already a very good storyline, and I feel like that elevated this episode even further. Whereas, and also the Wakandan element of it didn't take away from the story, and didn't make it worse in any way. That's why I felt like it was good. And my enjoyment, 8 out of 10. I feel like, because I know that story and I enjoy the story of Odysseus and stuff like that, it was going to be a good episode anyway for me. But I do understand how it was kind of obvious what's going to happen, which isn't always bad, but sometimes it is. Like the first episode, it was obvious. But the thing is, in the first episode, I didn't know the story, whereas in the second episode, I knew the story, which I knew what to look forward for. It made it better, in my personal opinion. And then episode three for me was the best. The soundtrack, the problem was the soundtrack was a little bit lacking, and I feel like it didn't draw from like the year it was from, which they were doing like a kind of like a Chinese, early Chinese civilization part of it. And the storyline, amazing. The opening sequence was very good. And it kind of pulled you into the story straight away, and there was a lot of action, which wasn't really there in the early ones. And it kind of felt, if it followed the storyline of the rest of them, it kind of felt like it was over as it began. Because what normally happens is they get the artifact, they go back to Wakanda, and that was it. Whereas this was the start. And I rated the storyline an 8 out of 10 because it introduced Iron Fist, like the early version of Iron Fist, which, as to my knowledge, that's the first time they've come up in like an MCU kind of thing. Obviously, I know they have the Iron Fist TV show, but interacting with like the actual MCU made by Marvel, that's the first introduction, especially in animation. So I really enjoyed it. My enjoyment, obviously, it's going to be high, a 9 out of 10. But there were some things that could have been done better, or some things that couldn't have been done better. But I enjoyed it so much. And I feel like for me, that is the best episode in that series. And final episode, episode 4. Soundtrack, again, 6 out of 10. I feel like that intro sequence really elevates it a lot. That's why I haven't done anything under a 5. I feel like there were parts of it, especially in near the end, when like the big conflict was happening. The music was good. Don't get me wrong, it was good. But some parts of it just weren't. The storyline, a 9 out of 10. Because there were some parts of it that were a bit weird. For instance, they went like, the Queen of Wakanda in the future came back in time to sort out a mistake that happened, which time travel can be a bit cheap in some things, but I feel like it worked in this scenario. And then they had this episode links Eyes of Wakanda to the rest of the Black Panther storyline, as the artifact that the Queen of Wakanda was trying to get back was the axe that we see Killmonger steal from the British Museum in Black Panther. And basically it revolves around that story, and if the artifact isn't where the British found it, then the whole of Wakanda and the world collapses. So it was a very good storyline, and it wasn't what I was expecting at all, so it kind of took me back a bit, because I liked it. But it wasn't as good as episode 3. My overall enjoyment, 7 out of 10. Because personally, I like the Black Panther films, and I feel like Killmonger is a great villain. But at the end, they kind of just showed a picture of him in the British Museum. There wasn't really any build on that, which I understand because he was just a cliffhanger. So overall, my ratings for the season, it was a good show. Don't get me wrong, it's a very good show. So the soundtrack, 6.5 out of 10, which is heavily carried by that intro. Because that intro, and I keep saying it, it's amazing. The storyline, so 7.5 out of 10. There were parts of it that I loved, there were parts of it I didn't. And overall, the story made sense, and it was kind of the same throughout, which was kind of an artifact of Wakanda gets stolen, and you should bring it back, and then that's the kind of whole plot of the thing. And then my enjoyment, 7.5 out of 10. It's not the worst I've ever seen from Marvel, and it's not the best I've ever seen from Marvel. Personally, I enjoyed it. I think on the tier list, so we've also got S to F. I'll probably rank it a B. It's kind of middle of the road. It's what you expect from a Marvel TV show. It's what you expect from a Marvel TV show. I don't hate it, honestly. And I don't hate it, honestly. That's Eyes of Wakanda ranked. And that's Eyes of Wakanda ranked. Going to be next. Captain America going to be Captain America First Avenger. There is a list that I have, which has there is a list one on. I have. Which so if you see any there that I'm missing, please tell me. If you see any there that I'm missing, please tell me, and I will add them to the list. Thank you very much. If not, make sure to subscribe. Thank you very much. Make sure to subscribe, and bye.